Hi everybody. You've seen the hype, and now you get to see the result. As if you haven't gotten enough hints though, this new mode should not come as a surprise to you. Card Battles, a separate game mode from classic battles like everyone expected, right? Well, not really. I'm surprised so many people would think it would completely replace normal battles, but I don't think anyone from Ninja Kiwi would be so dumb as to do that. Anyways, here is my first recorded gameplay of the new mode. A big shout out to Lucky, who is recording this for me as I was unable to get any recording software to work on iOS, the only platform where I'd be able to test this. So as you just saw, on the pre-game screen is your deck, which you can edit in the very small window of 30 seconds that you have. Luckily you can have 3 pre-made decks that you can switch to depending on the map, though it feels to me 3 is not enough, so hopefully in a future update they will either increase the amount of pre-mades you can have by purchasing them with medallions or something like that, or lengthen the time to edit the decks. I'd prefer the former cause extending the wait time might be annoying for most. Then for each deck there are 15 cards out of 64 total you can choose, so how about let's start with how you should assemble them. For the love God, do not jump in card battles right away without editing your deck, because you'll end up getting stuck with the beginner deck which is beyond garbage. Trust me, I played a few games with that deck and got anally destroyed by people who built custom decks. So remember to do that before you jump in. Personally, I prefer having one deck for early game, one for mid-game, and one for late game. Right now I'm using the mid-game deck because Yin Yang is the literal embodiment of average. Of course, since the footage is Lucky's, you can only see the cards he has, so let's just discuss those. You can see he's using a lot of triple dart monkeys because those are pretty good, both as a tower and as a balloon send. Those grouped zebras can definitely pack a bunch if your opponent is being greedy. Speaking of greed, just like normal battles, it is very important to raise your eco, and as such you'll want to bring a few low-level cards to get your eco up early, as well as some rushing cards so that it doesn't just end up being a game on bonanza or defend mode. Another thing to point out is the balloon queue, which is probably there, otherwise you could stack some serious OP rushes on top of each other. And so sending spaced rushes have some consequences. Hold up on that thought for a second though, because I want to talk about a really good card, the Super Funky Man Club. Other than the fact that it only costs 7,500, you can also use the card to send 3 group BFBs, which I guarantee will kill players 95% of the time. The other 5% is when they have a card like the Ground Zero, or they use the exact same card you're using on them. Sadly, Lucky did not place enough Dart Monkeys down, so his fan club wasn't very good at defending the rush, so GG there. Now we're on Yellow Stadium, and you can see the deck editing screen and how it looks. Sadly 30 seconds isn't enough time for him to swap out his nuclear sub cause he can't even use the tower on Yellow Dick Road, though sometimes it could be handy if you want to rush him with combo regrow LEDs. Very situational though. Anyways, as I was saying earlier, about spaced balloon sends. There's this one card, the Cluster Bomb and Spaced Pinks I believe, which send about 40 pinks or so to your opponent, which is nice for harassment, but a pain if you're trying to build eco cause it'll take about 20 seconds for them all to go through. So as you can see there is a shit ton of strategy involved, not just in building your deck, but also on what cards to discard, and when and where to place them on. Speaking of discarding, a strategy I picked up fairly quickly was in the beginning of the game. You'll almost always want to get rid of your higher level cards because there's no use in them collecting dust and taking up a card slot for 10 rounds or more. You'll more than likely see that card come up again by that time. And that extra slot could be filled in with early game cards which are so good for building up eco. At a first glance I thought the ones aside from the Dart Monkey card with group red sends were useless, but now I can see why they are so strong despite the fact the tower itself may be useless. Some other OP cards I forgot to mention is the Laser Dartling Gun, which you saw last game from me and can buy for a measly $4,500. Compare that to its normal price of $8,000 to $9,000 and you got a bargain, along with its Bloons Cent counterpart, which nets you an extra $200 income for Group Pink Cents. Only problem is it lacks AMOLED popping power, which I suppose they deliberately did so that it has some weakness. Anyways, Lucky just got owned from the ever-so-deadly Regrow LED Rush, which came from the useless 2-1 Spike Factory card. You can't see my screen, but I was lucky enough to send Regrow LEDs the first time, then after I boost, what do you know, I drew the same card again, so I just rushed him with the same thing while his boost was down. On to match 3. I wish I could show you a game on indoor pools or hydro just to give you a glimpse of my low-tier deck, but I actually think I'm using that deck on this match, so if this game goes past mid-game I'm kind of screwed. Bringing up a different topic now, but don't you think it's kind of weird that there are a lot of towers missing on these 64 cards so far? Because right now, as far as I can see, there are no signs of the Ice Tower, Glue Gunner, Mortar, Sniper, Balloon Chipper, or Cobra. That's a lot of towers to leave out initially, don't you think? Especially when there's nothing fundamentally about them to not warrant them being used as a card, aside from the Cobra. I know they'll probably end up adding these cards in a future update, but it's just a little abnormal that out of 64 attempts, they couldn't find any room to fit a single tower upgrade for 6 whole towers. So yeah, another question I'm a little curious about is how will future cards be unlocked by X card battle wins, Y medallions, or simply already have that upgrade unlocked normally? As far as I'm aware, I have access to every single card at the moment because I've already unlocked every tower upgrade, and personally that's a bummer because part of the fun in this update would be the satisfaction you get when you finally unlock the card you've wanted for ages. But since every card is available, I can assemble the best deck possible right off the bat, and where's the fun in that? However, if unlocking them in a different way was the case, you'd start having people complain the game is pay to win cause this guy paid X dollars for an OP card and you didn't, and that's why they won. So either way, Ninja Kiwi can't really win, but I think everybody should be happy they didn't go the pay to win route cause it would be much worse. That's going to do it for me, I think. This commentary is probably one of the longest this is. And as much I've made the whole video extra long so you can savor some of the goodness of this update before you get to play it, which will be in a few days or so. And right, who can forget the good old poll? This one is what would you rate update 3.6 as? Choose one of the 5 options to the side. I know you probably haven't played it yourself at the moment, but I suppose you could formulate a pretty good basis of how you would enjoy it just by looking at the gameplay. The beauty of YouTube polls is that you can change your vote after the fact too, so there's that. As always, likes and comments are always welcome. Have a random day.